رحم الله من قرأ سورة الفاتحة. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وعظيمنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه الغر الميامين. الحمد لله الذي جعلنا من المتمسكين بولاية سيدي ومولاي علي بن أبي طالب. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. أما بعد، يقول الله في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، إن الدين عند الله الإسلام. The first of our salawat in honor of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. The second in honor of Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib. Allahumma salli alayhi. The third with your loudest voices in honor of the Imam of our time, Imam Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman. Respected scholars, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. The discussion concerning religious pluralism is a fundamental discussion in academic thought, as well as a fundamental discussion in theological thought. You'll find in each and every religion in the world today, it is seen as one of the most important discussions within these religions, a discussion with a historical basis and a contemporary significance. Contemporary, without a doubt, affecting the lives of many Muslims living in the Western world. The issue of religious pluralism or Islamic pluralism asks the following question: is there only one religion which leads the human being to salvation and bliss, or are there multiple religions which can lead to this? Is there only one Sirat al-Mustaqim, or are there multiple Sirats? If a person is a Muslim, is that the only way a person can enter heaven? Or can a person who follows God but through a different path also find heavenly bliss? You find that the origin of this pluralistic discussion and the hypothesis was mainly seen in the works of John Hick, who in the beginning saw himself as an exclusivist Catholic. In the beginning, he put forward the idea that only Catholics will go to heaven. But later, through what some may argue Kantian influences, he changed this idea to say that there are multiple paths to God. Because how many times have you asked yourself the question that my Christian friend, who is a good human being, surely there must be a way in which they can also find the heavenly abode. My Jewish friend, who is good, well-mannered, ethical, why is it that they cannot go towards heavenly bliss while I can? My non-believing friend, who's a human being who's charitable, who's looked after other humans, who's helped those people who are physically challenged, how is it that they cannot find eternal bliss whereas I will? These questions are questions which are being asked by many today, and you'll find the issue of Islamic pluralism is one which affects our communities today, as in there are many in our communities today who say you don't have to believe in the Prophet Muhammad for you to find the heavenly abode. All you need to do is believe in God, submit your life to God. The path of Musa is a path to God. The path of Isa is a path to God. And the path of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, is also a path to God. And you find within academic circles today, if you go to virtually every Islamic studies department in the academic world, you'll find that there are papers continuously being published about pluralism, as in plural in difference to the singular. The singular would indicate one way to God. The plural indicates multiple ways to God. Let's examine tonight the issue of pluralism and ask ourselves the following question. Number one, how is pluralism divided within Islamic thought? Number two, how did Hick describe his theory of pluralism, and what are the flaws in this theory? Number three, when the Quran says, Inna ad-deena inda Allah al-Islam, is Islam meant to be taken in the noun or the verb? And what difference would the noun and the verb make? Number four, how did the Prophet's behavior indicate that Islam is an actualized, complete path to God? Number five, does this mean that someone who doesn't believe in Islam will not be shown the mercy of God? And what do our fifth Imam and seventh Imam say about this? And number six, how important is it to understand that just because someone says La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah does not mean that he can get away with the worst of actions? Let's examine this and dissect the topic in depth. When we come to the word pluralism in religious thought, you'll find that pluralism is divided into two. The first type of pluralism is one which is espoused within the religion of Islam, what is known as social pluralism. What do we mean social pluralism? Social pluralism, all Muslim scholars agree as to its importance. I today, when I live in Canada, my neighbor to my right hand side may be someone of the Jewish faith. My neighbor to my left hand side may be someone of the Christian faith. My neighbor opposite may be someone who is atheist. And my neighbor behind me may be someone of a polytheistic faith, multiple gods. Does this mean because they have not reached the same theological conclusions that I've reached, does this mean that I shouldn't get along with them as a fellow member of humanity? As in, just because I'm a Muslim and he's a Hindu and he's a Sikh and he's a Jew and he's a Buddhist, does that mean that I should show no respect to them whatsoever? Or does the religion of Islam espouse social pluralism? The religion of Islam espouses social pluralism because of a number of reasons. Why? Firstly, the religion of Islam says what? The religion of Islam says that at the end of the day, that Jewish person or that Buddhist or that Hindu or that Sikh, all of them ask 4 questions irrespective of their religion. What are these 4 questions? These 4 questions are questions which every human being asks, irrespective of whether they are a Muslim, a Christian, a Jew, a Sikh, a Hindu, or a Buddhist. The first one is a metaphysical question. Is there an unseen force who exists, who I cannot see, but is the reason and is a necessary existence for me in my life? Then there's a cosmological question. How did this universe begin? Was it by a set of accidents or was it planned in an orderly fashion? Number 3, a psychological question. What's my role in this world? Why was I created? Number 4, an ethical question. How do I relate to other human beings and how do I behave with them? Islam said your neighbors in the society you live in are people and human beings just like you. They ask the same questions you ask. In the same way you seek answers about the origin of the universe, in the same way you seek answers about an unseen force, in the same way you seek answers about your role in this world, and in the same way you seek answers about how to behave, so does the Jew, so does the Buddhist, so does the Sikh. Therefore, you should be able to interact with each other, where although you may not agree with each other theologically, you could at least agree to disagree, number one. Number two, open the forum of dialogue. Number three, look for the common denominators between you, isn't it? As in, you find that now today, living in Canada, should I espouse this idea of living in tolerance with non-Muslims? Of course I should. Because that non-Muslim, even though his theology, his conclusion may be different, at the end of the day, he's my brother in humanity, isn't it? As in, didn't Amir al-Mu'mineen say, people are of two types. They are either your brothers in faith or your equals in humanity. Ali ibn Abi Talib's words until today ring in our ears, that when I'm living in a pluralistic society, a society of more than one belief, I should be someone who's willing to interact with those who surround me, who's willing to open my doors to them, who's willing to discuss their books and discuss mine. That's why if you look within the religion of Islam, you'll find even within the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala highlights through His Prophet that there is no harm whatsoever you opening the doors of discussion with people of other religions. In chapter 3 verse 64 of the Quran, what does the Quran say? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. قُلْ يَا أَهْلَ الْكِتَابِ تعالوا come تعالوا إلى كلمة سواء بيننا وبينكم ألا نعبد إلا الله ولا نشرك به شيئا ولا يتخذ بعضنا بعضا أربابا من دون الله. O people of the book, come to a joint word. Listen to the Quran. كلمة سواء بيننا وبينكم. Come to a joint word between us and you. If Rasulullah had come without any concept of social pluralism, he would have said, Christians of Medina, get out of Medina. Jews of Medina, get out of Medina. This is only for Muslims. We don't want to interact with anyone. No, on the contrary. When we live in a pluralistic society, there is a need for a social interaction where we don't just explain our belief. We learn about the beliefs of others. As in today, when you hear many people saying we should have interfaith dialogue, the word dialogue, its etymology is what? Its etymology is the Greek word dia. Dia means to see through the other. Many Muslims think that they're acting with social pluralism when they're not. We don't see through the lens of Christianity. We see through the lens of Quran looking at Christianity, isn't it? As in, seeing through the other means I'm willing to read the Bible and see what it says. I'm willing to understand how they reach their conclusion, and also at the same time willing to understand how I reach my conclusion as well. And that's why Amir al-Mu'mineen, another tradition, what does he say? Our enemies are not the Christians and the Jews. Our enemy is our own ignorance. Ali ibn Abi Talib, sometimes his lines, they actually are lines forever, for every human being. Our enemies aren't the people of different faiths. Our enemy is our ignorance, that we're not willing to interact with others. Social pluralism, what is it? Social pluralism is the idea that I as a human being acknowledge other human beings have beliefs. I respect their laws, they respect mine. I'm tolerant of their opinions, they're tolerant of mine. And the world needs social pluralism. Why? Because today in the world, unless we go to sit with each other, learn from each other, understand each other's history, sit down please, sit down. Unless we're willing to understand each other's history, you find that there is not going to be any progress forward. There's not going to be any interaction that takes place between us. And let's face the facts today. Some of our children, where are they? Some of our children are in schools with Christians, with Jews. If I sit at home the whole day and have hatred for others, then are my children going to develop with an open mind or a narrow mind? Therefore, social pluralism, what was it? Social pluralism was the idea that the human being should be willing to interact with others. And that's why I tell you, this religion, the religion of Islam, were it not for a Christian priest in Ethiopia, this religion would not have found many supporters. Didn't Rasulullah tell Ja'far ibn Abu Talib, go to Ethiopia? He could have easily said, no, don't go to him, because then it's going to make Christianity look good, and we don't want Christianity to look good. No, Ja'far, go to Abyssinia, you'll see a priest who's humble. That's it. I look for what's common between us. Humility in Christianity is humility in Islam, isn't it? Justice in Christianity is justice in Islam. Forbearance in Christianity is forbearance in Islam. We have more similar to each other than we have differences. Therefore, social pluralism was what? Islam said, make sure you're a social, pluralistic human being. Open up the doors of dialogue with people of other beliefs. Then you found the second division of pluralism was what? Religious pluralism. John Hick put forward the hypothesis in the 70s and 80s. John Hick, originally, what did he used to say? Only Catholics go to heaven, nobody else. As in, not only, he didn't say only Christians. No, no, no. Because sometimes there are people within a religion, they become really strict. Only us from this religion go to heaven, nobody else. John Hick, what did he say? He said only Catholics go to heaven, everybody else will perish. John Hick then changed his opinion. He had Kantian influences on him, as if you read Hick's writings, you'll see that there is a sort of understanding of Hick based on Kant. His vision of the mind to God may be similar to Kant's vision of the mind to the world. What did Hick come forward and say? Hick came forward and said that, no, I take back what I say about Catholics only going to heaven. All paths can lead to heaven, because each and every one of us has a portion of the truth. The Muslim has a portion, the Christian has a portion, and the Jew has a portion. If you look at all of them, they have more similar than they have differences. Each one of them will find a path to God. The anecdote he gave was interesting. He gave an anecdote related to Hindu mystics. The Hindus, what did they used to say? The Hindus had a lovely anecdote. They say if you bring an elephant and you put 3 blind men near an elephant, and you ask these blind men, they don't know what's in front of them, you ask them, what's in front of you? One of them feels the leg, the other of them feels the tusk, the other of them feels what? The other of them you'll find feels the trunk. When you ask the first of the blind men who's feeling the leg, what do you feel? He said, I feel a great pillar. And when you ask the second of them who's feeling the tusk, what do you feel? He says, I'm feeling a very sharp plowshare. And when you ask the third one, what are you feeling? He says, I'm feeling a very soft snake. John Hick said, if you ask all of them about the other, they'll say all of the others are false, I am the only one on the truth. The reality is each one of them has a truth as a part of the whole. The one who understands the pillar has a portion of the elephant. The one who understands the sharp plowshare has a portion of the elephant. The one who sees it as a snake has a portion. They all have a portion of the truth, but they have a portion of an understanding of the whole. He says, likewise Christians, Jews, Muslims, all of them have a portion of understanding God. That means all of them will go towards being saved. Someone replied to John Hick by saying that, hold on a minute, you're telling me the Christian who believes Jesus is the Son of God, and the Muslim who believes God cannot have a son, and the Jew who may believe in a God who wrestled with Jacob before we came to the earth, and a Hindu who could put the image of God in an idol, all of us are going to the same heaven? He replied by saying, listen, please listen to his points. He replied by saying, you have a point. There's only going to be 3 objections to my theory, and I'll reply to each of them, he said. Your objections are either going to be historical, trans-historical, or understandings of the real. So to him, what do you mean? He said, the first objection any of you are going to have to my theory of pluralism is an objection which is historical. He said, I understand. You're going to say to me, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, their understanding of certain things in history are different, isn't it? He said, I'll reply to you. It's easy. Okay, Mr. Hick, what's your reply? He said, the reply is, take all 3 of them. Whichever of them differs from the other 2, then classify their belief as a myth and throw it away. So what do you mean? He said, take for example the birth of Jesus, miraculous or not. Judaism, does it believe the birth of Jesus was miraculous or not? No. Christianity, does it believe the birth of Jesus was miraculous or not? Yes. Islam, does it believe the birth of Jesus was miraculous or not? Yes. So he said Judaism, therefore its belief about the miracle birth, throw it away because it differs with the other 2. You think the Jews are going to be happy when you say that, Mr. Hick? As in, you think the Jew, when you say to him that your belief that Jesus was born a normal birth, you think he's going to be happy with what you said by throwing his belief away? You find that he came forward, what did he say? He came forward and said that you need to understand, if anyone differs with us, throw that belief away. It's a myth. Likewise, Mary, Christianity, does it view Mary as holy? Yes. Islam, does it view Mary as holy? Yes. Judaism, do they view Mary as holy? No. So he says again, throw their belief away. Then they took him a step further. The crucifixion. Judaism, do they believe in the crucifixion? Yes. They believe the crucifixion happened. Christianity, do they believe in the crucifixion? Of course. Islam, do we believe in the crucifixion of Christ? No. Throw Islam's crucifixion away then. Will Muslims be happy if you throw their crucifixion away? In other words, the first reply is you trying to throw away what's different. That's mythical in itself. That's number one. He said the second objection to me would be transhistorical. What did he mean transhistorical? He said the second objection is, yes, they differ over things like death and the day of judgment. But these things, death and the day of judgment, they don't bring you salvation. As in believing in Qiyamah doesn't bring you any salvation. You don't need to believe in a day of judgment. You can just believe in God and that's enough. That means 500 verses of the Quran I have to throw away. Isn't it? Because if you're trying to say to me all the paths lead to God, but there's no need for you to believe in the day of judgment because there's difference over it. Well, there are 500 verses in this Quran which speak about Qiyamah. Does that mean I throw them away? For the sake that every path leads towards God? That was number two. Number three, he said your objections are going to be about the real. Yes, some of you are going to give me different opinions about God. Well, yes, of course, because our opinions are completely different. We believe, Islam believes in a God who cannot be seen. Christianity believes in a God who one day is eternal, the next day he's living, the next day he's dead, the next day he's a spirit of God. Judaism believes in a God, for example, who one day was seen and another day couldn't be seen and in the end will be seen. Hinduism believes in a God, but then they made images to that God. Our understanding of the real is not as fickle as you make it. We have completely divergent opinions. Therefore, John Hick, his idea about pluralism was one which could be defeated. But then you found some Muslims came forward. Some Muslims said, forget Hick. We believe in pluralism. So what do you mean you believe in pluralism? They said everybody goes to heaven. So what do you mean everybody goes to heaven? Said the one who loves Moses goes to heaven. And the one who loves Jesus goes to heaven. And the one who loves Muhammad goes to heaven. Said to them, why? Said because of the Quran. The Quran says they all go to heaven. Where in the Quran? Say chapter 3 verse 19. Inna ad-deena 'inda Allah al-Islam. So hold on, this verse is quite clear. It says the religion with God is Islam. They said yes. Said yeah, but the verse is saying Islam, so how are you saying? They said yes, Islam doesn't mean Islam in the noun, Islam in the verb. Say how Islam in the verb? Say Islam in the verb means to submit to Allah. So anyone who submits to God goes to heaven. It's quite a clever opinion, isn't it? Inna ad-deena 'inda Allah al-Islam. Say Islam, not the noun. Doesn't mean the main name of a religion. Islam, the verb. A Christian submits, a Jew submits, a Muslim submits. All of them go to God. All of them go to heaven. You reply by saying it's interesting. But why don't you complete the verse? Why do you stop in the middle of the verse? As in the Quran, if you stop in the middle of a verse, then anyone can form an opinion. That verse begins, Inna ad-deena 'inda Allah al-Islam. The religion with God is Islam. And the people of the book, Ahl al-Kitab, when the knowledge came to them of the truth, turned away from the message because of envy of the message. You see, they stopped in the middle. They didn't continue to mention Ahl al-Kitab when the Quran came to them. It came to Christianity and Judaism. It came as a final message. Instead of them taking it, the envy got to them. The man comes to Medina. He doesn't even have a royal entourage. He looks like a normal human being coming on a camel. You think we're going to accept this guy as a Messiah? I tell you, I always ask the question. If Judaism doesn't believe in Rasulullah, then why are there so many of you in Medina? Unless you had a book which told you a man would appear from Medina, isn't it? As in when there's many Jews in Medina, why? As in unless you were told there's a man who's going to come in Medina. Banu Qurayza, Banu Qaynuqa, Banu Nadir, the people of Fadak, the people of Khaybar, all of them Jewish, aren't they? They were all there in Medina. The Quran said, إِنَّ الدِّينَ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ الْإِسْلَامِ. But the people of the book, instead of taking this final message of Rasulullah, turned away out of envy of his message. And you find each and every one of them fought him. And that's why it's not just that verse. Muslim pluralists today, it's not just that verse. If you look in the same Surah 3 verse 19, look 66 verse later, Surah 3 verse 85, tell the people of the book, do you believe in submitting to the religion of Islam? If they do, then they are rightly guided. If they don't, then your responsibility is only to give them a message. As in here the Quran, even another verse says, we only accept from the people the religion of Islam. We do not accept anything else. Someone says, but how does the Prophet's behavior show this? As in, someone may argue that the Prophet, maybe he showed the Christians that you could get to heaven as well. You find the Prophet, no. The Prophet on many occasions, what was he showing? The Prophet, after the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, wrote a letter to the Christians, inviting them to the religion of Islam. Tell me, if Rasulullah thought Christianity the way it was is a path to heaven, Rasulullah has no need to tell the Christians, come to Islam, isn't it? Rasulullah could just say, stay the way you are, there's no need to change. You don't need to change, stay Christian, we'll stay Muslim. Rasulullah, after the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, wrote a letter to every Christian. He said to him that come towards the religion of Islam. When you come towards this religion, you will find eternal salvation. And that's why here you find something very interesting. Something arises here which is very important. Someone asks, why Islam? As in, why is Islam the only message to Allah? I think this is the most important question for any Muslim in their life. Some answer it at 20, some answer it at 40, others answer it at 60, and there are some who go to their grave and not for 1 second did they ask. And you know what the problem is? We have too many followers without any reflection. Too many. They're following what they think is a religion, but without reflecting why Islam. Someone says, oh, I follow Islam because of the fact that the Quran is the final book of God. It's going to be a cyclical argument. You believe the Quran, they believe the Bible. You'll turn around, you say, I believe the Bible. So what? You say you're a Muslim because you believe the Quran. I believe the Bible. I believe Islam because the Prophet Muhammad is the last Prophet. It's cyclical again. We believe Musa, you believe Jesus, we believe Muhammad. Do you notice how many arguments we actually use? If you put them to test, they'll be just replied back to in a cyclical way. You find that the main question a Muslim needs to ask themselves in this world is why Islam? As in the Prophet Muhammad, when he said you have to have Islam, the Christians love God, the Christians have the best ethics, the Christians talk of neighbors, they talk of brotherhood, Jews have the same, they believe in commandments, laws which you have to follow, boundaries and regulations. Oh Muhammad, why Islam? The Prophet Muhammad wasn't turning around to Christianity and Judaism and saying you are bad religions, not at all. The Prophet Muhammad came with a particular message. What was it? Moses brought you law. Jesus brought you the spirit of law. With my Islam, I bring you the law and the spirit in one religion. That's the point. We're not saying Judaism and Christianity are bad ways of life. On the contrary, wallah, there are Christians and Jews better than some people in our Muslim community. What we are saying is the complete message of law and ethics with spirituality as a holistic way of life, complete in the Prophet. And I tell you, there'll be certain people, when you think about this, they'll say, we haven't even reflected, because if I ask a Muslim today, excuse me, I'm a Christian, you're a Muslim, why Islam? Why? Tell me, why your religion? Why not mine? I love God, you teach about loving God. I love prophets, you teach about loving prophets. Why shouldn't I follow my religion? Why should I follow yours? The answer can't be because mommy and daddy were Muslims and I was born into the religion. If your mother and father are Ali and Fatima, you're born into that. And if your mother and father are Jason and Tracy, you're born into that. And if your mother and father are, for example, of another name, you'll follow that. Islam said there is no taqleed in usul ad-din. You need to go out and understand why, isn't it? In usul ad-din, I can't just turn around and say, mommy and daddy are Muslim, that's why I am Muslim. I have not got a clue why I am Muslim. Islam came forward and said, go and research why you're of this religion. You think you can come back to us without understanding why? The answer is that the complete holistic way of life, holistic structure, in law, ethics, spirituality, and in a social life with theological answers was actualized in the Holy Prophet in his life. In the Holy Prophet, you didn't just find the law of Moses, nor did you find the love of Jesus. You found both of them intertwined in Muhammad's complete message. And that's why when you find questions arise, does that mean my atheist friend, please listen to this delicate point, does that mean my atheist friend, who is a good human being, who's got better akhlaq than some of our Muslim community, does that mean that my atheist friend will not find a way to heaven? Said Ammar. You know what the reply is? Your atheist friend doesn't even believe in a heaven. That's the problem. As in some how many times you get people saying, but my atheist friend, you know, surely there must be a way he'll be in heaven. He thinks that heaven and hell are myths, and you want to put him somewhere he thinks is a myth. Reflect. The atheist thinks it's a myth, and you're trying to make a whole defense case in the court. Please, please put him in heaven. He doesn't even believe in a thing. Someone turns around and says, how about my Christian and Jewish friend, or even my friend, surely Allah will show mercy to him? Yes, Allah will show mercy, that there is no doubt. There needs to be an acceptance of Prophet Muhammad's message, that there is no doubt. Anyone who heard the Risala of Rasulullah from that day until today has to accept it as the final holistic way of life, answering theology, ethics, and the social aspects. However, if a person is a non-Muslim, does that mean that they burn in hell? And I don't like to mention these words, hell, a lot from the minbar. I know there are certain people who enjoy their whole lecture, hell, 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 damnation, hell, 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 yes? As if you find that there are certain people, the whole lecture, the whole world's going to heaven, but he thinks he's going to heaven and the whole world's going to hell. No, I don't like to mention hell, hell. But one thing I will mention, our imams on a number of occasions mentioned, if a person hasn't submitted to the path of Rasulullah, correct, he needs to submit to that path. And at the end of the day, the heavenly abode straight away will not be theirs. However, does that mean Allah burns them? And again, I don't like to use this rhetoric. It's purely for the discussion. Our 7th Imam and 5th Imam both were asked this question, that if I have a non-believing friend, but they're a good human being, will Allah put them in hellfire even though they haven't wronged others? Imam Muslim ibn Ja'far in his answer, do you know what he said? He turned around to the person, he said to him, that in the days of the children of Israel, there was a man who didn't believe, but he was the neighbor of a believer. He was so good in his behavior that when he died, although he didn't believe, Allah ordered the angels, build for him a house within hellfire, but I want it built in a way where the fire of hell does not touch him. He's within the parameter, yes, but the fire doesn't touch him. I'll leave him there, and the judgment then becomes mine later on what should happen. But should I burn him because he's been a good neighbor to a fellow human? That person builds him a house, and that house, fire of hell should not touch him. On another occasion you find our 5th Imam, Imam al-Baqir, salawatullah wa salamu alayhi. You find our 5th Imam, Imam al-Baqir himself on another occasion, what does he say? He says there was a man living in the time of whom? A man living in the time of an oppressive leader. That man left. He went to people who were polytheists, who put partners to God. But those people gave him shelter. Those people looked after him. Imam al-Baqir said, God will order that a house is built for him. It may be built in the parameters of hell, but Allah will order the angels, never make the fire of hell bring fear into this man. The man was a good human being. He may not taste heaven straight away, but because of his goodness as a human being, we do not forget the deeds of a good human being. And that's why I always point out that sometimes when people say people who are good in this world, Allah will forget them. Number one, we mentioned hadiths where Allah will make sure that the fear or the fire of hell does not touch those types of people. Number two, in this world Allah does reward, no doubt. How many non-Muslims have you seen in this world who are more successful than Muslims in their life, isn't it? Haven't there been non-Muslims Their philanthropy is better than some Muslims. Wallah, we have some stingy Muslims, I tell you. You have some Muslims, and you know stinginess is a disease which Ali ibn Abi Talib says kills you in this world and the hereafter. In this world you don't end up enjoying your money, and in the hereafter you're put with the stingy. Isn't it? You end up losing both. You lose this world and the hereafter. Wallah, there are some, they find it so hard to give from themselves. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. They are, when they talk, all their language is just pure stinginess, nothing more. And you find there are others who are philanthropists who don't know Muhammad. They don't know Hussein. But wallah, the way they give their wealth, you'd think he knew Muhammad and Hussein. You'd think he knew Al-Muhammad. When you give $1 billion away or 500 million, you think Allah didn't bless such people because he knew that they are good with humanity. And sometimes when someone says, Ya Allah, why not me? It's because if I give you, wallah, you'll never give to any human being. As in, there are some human beings, I tell you, millionaire, when it comes to funding for a project, yes, on the following 10 conditions I will fund you. He's only got this much money compared to Buffett and Gates, but now he's walking around like a peacock on the earth. Sit down, calm down, relax. A few million you've made, mashallah, well done. Don't put conditions on the human being, because there are millions richer than you. Be a person of generosity, a person of humility. Learn from Buffett, learn from Gates. Learn from the fact that as human beings, irrespective of Islam, they had a trait called generosity. You think Allah does not reward people like that? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sees a man saying, all this money I've earned, what am I going to do with it? I'm not going to be extravagant with it. Rather, find out for me, can we do more research into cancer? Can we do more research into AIDS? Can we help more poor people in Africa or India? Give more. And you'll find a Muslim, if you ask them in the last year, with all the money you've made, have you sponsored one orphan? Sometimes, I tell you, we think we're the most religious people. There are people outside our religion who are much better than us. So therefore, what do you find? You find that Islam came forward and said, that unbeliever, be it in this world or in the hereafter. Allah began the Quran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. He is the most merciful, the most beneficent. He does not let the good deed of a human go in this world or in the hereafter. The question then arises, does that mean heaven is only for Muslims? As in anyone who says La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, heaven is only for them, not for anybody else? No way, no. Because La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah was uttered by some of the filthiest people on this earth, isn't it? As I tell you, some of this history we have in our books, I think it's better that this history, someday a person burns it. That's the best thing. Because when you see the way people reach conclusions about certain people, they'll reach conclusions about them. This person is a great Khalifa of Islam. Bani Umayyah, Bani Abbas, until today you'll find Muslims with all their behavior and all their actions, the way they oppress people, the way they had false witnessing, the way they oppressed the orphans, you'll find Muslims until today. But brother, he said, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. But La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah is Iman. But there needs to be Amal with Iman, isn't it? Inna alladhina amanu wa amilu salihat. Those who believe and perform the act. How many times do you hear someone who says, I believe in Islam in my heart? You know this heart. I believe in Islam in my heart, said Ammar. But I don't pray, I don't fast, and I don't wear hijab, and I do all of the things, but I'm a good, my heart is pure. So what happens to me on the day of judgment? What happens? Well, Allah puts that heart in heaven and He puts everything else somewhere else, isn't it? As in, if it's about the heart, then Allah will say, oh, this heart is lovely, bring the heart, put it here in Jannah. Everything else let go, because that's going to be a menace to society, that's one. Good heart. You find that it needs to be acts with belief, not just belief. And that's why you find on one occasion, Amir al-Mu'mineen, pain affected his eye badly. When the pain affected his eye, he said, Ya Rasulullah, the pain is killing me. I have never felt pain like this in my life. Rasulullah said to him, Ali bin Abi Talib, is it out of patience? Is it out of impatience or is it out of pain? He said to him, Ya Rasulullah, I'm telling you it's out of pain. He said, then let me tell you what an unbeliever goes through when they die. At the end, Ali ibn Abi Talib said, Ya Rasulullah, if you ever see me in pain again, narrate this again for me. because I won't feel this pain if that's what someone's going to go through. Then he said, but Ya Rasulullah, that, is it only for an unbeliever, or will our Muslims go through that as well? He said, some of our Muslims will go through that pain as well. He said, Ya Rasulullah, who? A person who says, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, even he will go through pain? He said, yes. He said, who? He said, 3 types in particular of Muslims. The first type of Muslim who will go through such pain is a Muslim who hurts an orphan, isn't it? As in an orphan, when you see an orphan in front of you, isn't it that your heart breaks for that orphan straight away? As in you can't bear to see them knowing that they don't have a father to go home to, or they don't have a mother to be with them. Only Allah knows what Sayyida Zainab went through when she's running from tent to tent on the night of the 11th of Muharram, isn't it? And they would come, Ammar ibn Sa'ad, Shimr ibn Dil-Jawshan, Harmal ibn Kahil, Sinan ibn Anas, and you know each one of them, La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah. Do you know Ammar ibn Sa'ad, when he ordered his horses to trample on Imam al-Husayn's body, you know what he said? Ya khayl Allah irkabi. Oh horse riders of God, ride your horses. Muslim, La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, is getting his horses to trample on the grandson of the man who brought the religion. Number 1, the one who oppresses the orphan. Number 2, the one who bears false witness. Brothers and sisters, do you know how many of us in our communities have damaged the reputation of people through false witness? Then later we find out we damaged their rep. Do you think we've got the humility to go and tell them? We look at them and we're like, it's nice to meet you, mashallah, but you are stabbing in the back. That's number 2. Number 3, and the ruler who's oppressive, because this religion has had some of the most disgusting rulers in its history. And you'll find certain people who say, the best generation was the one after Rasulullah, and the one after that one. The generation that produced Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan and Yazid was the best. The generation that produced Walid bin Abdul Malik and produced Abdul Malik bin Marwan and Hajjaj bin, that's the best. That's the best. People who claim to say La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah but who are oppressive. Rasulullah wanted to make clear, do never in your mind think just because you're a Muslim, heaven waits for you. No way. There has to be belief and action. Not just belief. And when I say belief and action, do you know what I mean by belief and action? Today in the Muslim community, we have theological submission but no legal submission. Someone said, Ammar, what do you mean theological submission, no legal submission? Theologically, we have many people, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, isn't it? Legally, you tell them, excuse me, this is wajib on you. You have to do it now. I'm not ready for it. What do you mean you're not ready? Law, fiqh wasn't about when you're ready. You have to submit as soon as you find out something is obligatory. I'm not ready. And you really think that because you're not ready, Allah is waiting for you, isn't it? Allah is waiting. When you're ready in your own time, come back to me. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah has to have amal. With the belief, I can't say Muhammad Rasulullah, but I don't believe in the hijab of Muhammad. What I take from Muhammad until the day of judgment, I have to submit to in all areas. I can't come and turn around, I don't believe in what he says. And that's why Imam Zayn al-Abidin quite beautifully, what does he say? Tawus al-Yamani says, Salat al-Isha had finished, and Zayn al-Abidin would be near the Kaaba, from Salat al-Isha to Salat al-Layl. And I'd see him crying by the Kaaba, crying. I'd come to him, I say, oh Imam, you are crying, you are Zayn al-Abidin, son of Fatima al-Zahra, son of Ali ibn Abi Talib, son of Hussein ibn Ali. You cry, then what are we meant to do? He turned around to me, gave him an answer, which was an answer to any complacent Muslim in this world. Sometimes we may be complacent. To any complacent Muslim, do you know what he said to him? He said, oh Tawus, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created heaven for those who obey, and He created hell for those who disobey. You may be an Ethiopian slave and you may get to heaven, and you may be a great man of Quraysh and you may end up of hell, isn't it? Even I, Zayn al-Abidin, even I cry by the Kaaba. And if Zayn al-Abidin cries by the Kaaba with all his amal, so what are we meant to do by the Kaaba, isn't it? As in, if Imam Zayn al-Abidin cries by the Kaaba, what was he saying? Don't believe just because La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah you're going to make it. No. You must have theological as well as legal submission. Therefore, what did you find? Islam came forward and said that religious pluralism, in terms of religious pluralism, a Muslim who believes in the message of Muhammad and Al Muhammad, there has to be submission to that message for heavenly bliss. Someone says, what did Rasulullah mean when he said, I have not created this whole world except for my love for these 5? That is the meaning of why you need to submit to Islam. Do you know why? Someone always asks this question. In Hadith al-Kisa we read, I did not create this earth and the heavens and the skies except for my love for these 5. Why? If I built a school in the Amazon rainforest, I know this school will not be successful unless I get 5 teachers of the best quality, say from Canada. I tell them, please go to this school. I want you to teach. Why? Because I know that there wasn't a point creating this school were it not for the fact that you get 5 brilliant teachers like them coming, isn't it? Allah knew there wasn't a point creating this earth were it not for the fact that I gave the earth teachers like Muhammad and Al Muhammad. That those 5, were it not for them, nobody would have appreciated how to achieve spiritual bliss. When we say submission to Islam, what do we mean? We mean that Islam actualized in the character of Muhammad and Al Muhammad. That's Islam. I tell you, if I wasn't a Muslim, if I now wasn't a Muslim, would I still respect Hussein ibn Ali? Of course I will. Because Hussein bin Ali didn't need me to be a Muslim to revere him. Hussein bin Ali's behavior as a human being was enough for me. Therefore, when Allah said you have to submit to Islam, Allah was saying the code of guidance better than any code is the code of Muhammad and Al Muhammad. And that's why what do you find? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, be open with people of other religions. Invite them towards your faith. Do not close the door on them. And that's why had Aba Abdullah not enacted social pluralism, then Wahab al-Kalbi would not have come towards Islam before the 10th of Muharram. As an Imam al-Hussein, you think all his army were born Muslims? No. Imam al-Hussein, like Imam Sahib al-Asr al-Zaman, both of them. Imam al-Hussein, like the Imam of our time, his soldiers do not need to be Muslims now. It could be a case that when they meet the Imam, they'll become Muslims. Isn't it? You find Imam al-Hussein, were it not for the fact that he was open, someone like Wahab would not have converted to the religion of Islam. And you know this Wahab, he was a Christian, he was sitting next to his mother and his wife. They had just got married. And the narrations, what did the narrations mention to us? The narrations mention to us at this moment that Imam al-Hussein was going towards Karbala. He came past their house. Wahab was outside the house. When he was outside the house, Wahab is a Christian. Imam al-Hussein was walking past. Wahab asked him, excuse me, who are you? He said, Ana Hussein ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib. I am Hussein, son of Ali, son of Abu Talib. He said to him, where are you heading? He said, I'm going to head towards removing oppression and bringing justice on this earth. Removing oppression is what you believe as a Christian, what I believe as a Muslim, isn't it? We both share this belief. There is oppression happening against humanity through the leadership in Sham. I'm going to try and remove this oppression, stand up against this injustice. Wahab said, may God bring you success in what you do. He went back into the house next to his mother. His mother looked at him. She said, who are you talking to? He said, I was talking to a man who said he's going out to fight against injustice and oppression. She said, what's his name? He said, Hussein, son of Ali, son of Abu Talib. His mother smiled when she looked at him. She said, did you say son of Ali bin Abi Talib? He said, yes. She said, what a wonderful man his dad was. He looked at her, he said, Mom, what do you mean? You know the family? She said, when I was pregnant with you, I was going through complications in my pregnancy. And it was difficult, and there was a chance I was going to die. Me and your father were Christians. His father was a Muslim. But I wish you had met his father. A lovely human being, a man of respect and a man of honor and principles. She said, although we didn't believe in his religion, we said to ourselves, let's go and ask him. He seems like a man of God. At the end of the day, our paths may be different, but he seems like a man of God. Let's go and ask him to pray to God to help me in my pregnancy. That, Ya Allah, oh God, let me have the birth, but don't kill my beloved child. She said, we went to Ali ibn Abi Talib. He said, by all means, I'll pray to God. You are people of God, we are people of God. I'll pray to God, and I hope that your child is born without complications. She said, my son, you were born because of the prayers of his father. When he looked at her, he became sad. He said, Mom, what would you want from me? Tell me. When he's come now past, she said, how many are with him? He said, only a handful of people. A small amount. And he has young girls with him, Mom. Ruqayya, Sukayna. And he even has a baby with him, Mom. A 6-month-old. There's only a young boy he has with him. They look like a family. They look like they have the best of unity. Mom, what do you want? What shall we do? She said to him, do you want to make me proud? He said, tell me, Mom. She said, let's join his religion. And he looked at her, he said, Mom, we join his religion? She said, yes. Ever since his dad helped me, I've always wanted to join his religion. Let's go, me and you, let's go to him. His wife, he had just got married to her, a Christian girl. She looked at him, she said, Wahab, where are you going? He said, I'm just going to see Abu Abdullah. I'm going to join his religion. Why? Because he's a man of God, and he's a man who deserves help. And his dad had a supplication which helped me before I was even born. She said, very well. She went with him, she saw the submission take place, and they headed towards Karbala. These two had been married for 17 days, brothers and sisters. Only 17 days they had been married. The narrations, you know what they mentioned to us? They mentioned to us that she noticed on the 10th of Muharram, each of the soldiers heading out. She had only got married 17 days earlier. The narrations mentioned to us that when she noticed this, she came to her husband. She said to him, I beg you, tell me you're not going to go out to fight. He said to her, I have to go out to fight. I have to defend this man. This man's a stranger in Karbala with no one to protect him. She said to him, I beg you, don't go. Please stay with me. Please. After you die, who's going to look after me? Who will be with me? We've only been married for 17 days. He said to her, I'm sorry. I don't mean to be rude to you, but it's my mother's wish and it's my role as a Muslim to sacrifice my life for justice. Do you know what the narrations mention? The narrations mention it came to his turn. He came to Abu Abdullah. These companions, we'll look at each one of them over the next couple of nights. Each one of them had a love for Imam al-Hussein, which was unbelievable. They came towards Abu Abdullah. When he came towards Abu Abdullah, he said to him, Ya Abu Abdullah, allow me to go out to fight. Abu Abdullah, as it was his tradition, he said, no, young man, you've only got married recently. Look after your wife. He said, Abu Abdullah, my mother said to me, make me proud that when I meet Fatima al-Zahra, when I meet her on the day of judgment, I could say I gave away a son for Hussein as well. The narrations mention that when he heard this, Abu Abdullah said to him, very well. The narrations mention therefore at this moment, he began to walk out. He heard a cry from behind. He heard this cry. What did the cry say? The cry called out, oh Wahab, do not go. He continued walking. The cry continued, oh Wahab, I beg you, do not go. He continued walking towards the battlefield. All of a sudden he heard a cry, Wahab, Wahab, go! Defend al-Muhammad. He turned around towards his wife and he looked at her and he said to her, why have you changed your words? When I asked you before, you said to me, do not go. Now when I ask you, you say to me, go towards the battlefield. She said, Wahab, how can I tell you not to fight when I see the daughters of Rasulullah without any water next to them? I see Sukayna to my right and I see Ruqayya to my left. But what hurts me the most is I see a 6-month-old baby without any water next to him. He was so sad when he heard her. He went out on the battlefield. Ammar bin Sa'ad attacked him from every angle. He didn't leave him alone. He was on the ground. He was lying there. She ran out towards his body. She had missed her husband. She sat by her body. She said to him, I'm so proud of you. Shimr then looked at his servant. He said, Rustam, go and finish his wife like you finished the husband. Rustam ran towards her body. He took out his sword and he beheaded her next to her husband when they were next to each other. Ammar bin Sa'ad did one thing which remains the saddest of things. He took this head of Wahab, he threw it at Wahab's mother. He said, hey, take your son. You don't have any son now, do you? Listen to the reply. She said to him, oh Ammar bin Sa'ad, you think you make me sad by giving me my son's head. I wish I had 20 sons to give towards Fatima Zahra, so I would be prouder with her on the day of judgment. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Raise your hands, brothers and sisters. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to raise us with Muhammad and Al Muhammad, to allow us to be amongst the companions of Imam Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman, allow us to be amongst those who follow their message in this world and the hereafter. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the Surah Al-Fatiha, but before the loudest of your salawat. Bismillah.
Excuse me. Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Hussein, Ya 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 Hussein, Hussein, Ya Hussein, कर लो मजलूम का मातम कर लो मजलूम का मातम कर लो मजलूम का मातम कर लो सब मिलके मातम कर लो आगे बोलूंगा कर लो मजलूम का मातम कर लो मजलूम का मातम कर लो